In the final months of the Pacific War, Japan turned to the special attack, missions where the pilot was the final guidance system. These weren't just modified planes, they were purpose-built machines of self-destruction. Today, we examine the terrifying reality of Japan's suicide weapons. Aerial Special Attack Weapons. The Yokosuka MXY-7 Ohka, famously known by the Allied nickname the Baka Bomb, was a human-guided missile designed for one thing: the destruction of the U.S. Pacific Fleet. You were looking at a tiny rocket-powered aircraft with a massive 1,200-kilogram ammonal warhead packed into its nose and 3 solid-fuel boosters strapped to its tail. It was released from a mother bomber to dive toward ships at speeds exceeding 900 kilometers per hour, making it a nearly invisible blur to anti-aircraft gunners. Once the rockets ignited, the pilot had only seconds to steer this aerodynamic hammer into the side of a carrier, ensuring a terminal strike that few hulls could survive. The Nakajima K-115 Tsurugi was an austere, low-tech aircraft designed specifically for the special attack missions intended to repel the looming invasion of the Japanese home islands. It features a crude frame made of non-strategic wood and steel, with a simplified cockpit and a landing gear assembly that falls off immediately after takeoff to save on weight and material. While over 100 were built, the program was so plagued by poor handling and manufacturing delays that few actually reached combat units before the surrender. It was intended to be the ultimate expendable tool, a cheap, mass-produced flying bomb for a final one-way defense of the Japanese coast. Moving from the clouds to the crushing depths, we find the naval suicide craft that turned the ocean into a hidden minefield. Naval Special Attack Weapons. The Kaiten, translated as Return to Heaven, was a terrifying manned torpedo derived from the lethal Type 93 Long Lance oxygen torpedo. You can see the pilot's cramped, claustrophobic canopy wedged directly between a massive 1,500-kilogram explosive warhead and the high-speed engine. Launched from the decks of submarines, these underwater predators utilized pure oxygen to travel at speeds up to 30 knots, carrying enough concentrated power to split a destroyer in two. It was a weapon of pure psychological and physical terror, forcing Allied captains to fear every shadow beneath the waves. The Ko-Hyoteki-class midget submarine was known to the Imperial Navy as Target A, a weapon designed for stealthy infiltration of enemy harbors. It is a slender, cigar-shaped sub with just enough room for 2 sailors and a pair of forward-facing torpedoes, powered by a high-output electric motor. While not strictly designed as a suicide craft, the recovery rates from missions like the Pearl Harbor and Sydney raids were so abysmal that for many crews the mission was effectively a one-way trip. The tight confines and limited oxygen meant that even if a crew survived the attack, their chances of returning to the mother sub were nearly zero. The Shinyo, nicknamed Seaquake, was the Navy's primary explosive motorboat designed to swarm Allied transport fleets. It features a simple wooden hull with a massive 270-kilogram explosive charge packed directly into its bow, triggered by impact-sensitive switches. Thousands were produced and hidden in camouflaged coastal caves, intended to wait for the cover of darkness before launching massed high-speed ramming attacks against landing ships. The hope was that sheer numbers would overwhelm the defensive fire of the invasion fleet, turning the surf into a wall of fire. The Maru-ni was the Army's specialized equivalent to the Navy's suicide boat, tailored for coastal defense.
It is recognizable by the two depth charges mounted on its stern, which the pilot was theoretically supposed to drop next to a hull before veering away at high speed. In the brutal reality of the Philippine campaigns, however, the escape maneuver was almost impossible to execute under fire. Consequently, these boats were almost exclusively used as high-speed ramming vessels, with the pilots opting to ensure a successful hit at the cost of their own lives. From the surf to the mud of the front lines, the suicide mission evolved into a terrifying close-quarters infantry tactic. Infantry special attack weapons. The Type 99 Lunge Mine, the primary weapon of the human bullet squads, was a terrifyingly simple anti-tank tool. It looks like a giant plunger, consisting of a conical-shaped charge fixed to the end of a long bamboo pole with 3 protruding legs to ensure the proper standoff distance. A soldier would emerge from a hidden spider hole, charge an enemy tank, and lunge at the armor, detonating a shaped charge powerful enough to punch through even the thickest heavy tank plating. This was a weapon of absolute certainty. If the strike was successful, the tank was disabled, and the operator was killed instantly. From the surf to the mud of the front lines, the suicide mission evolved into a terrifying close-quarters infantry tactic. The Type 3 ceramic grenade, or the pottery grenade, was a grim symbol of severe wartime resource shortages and total national mobilization. It is a round brown orb made of terracotta or porcelain, manufactured in traditional kilns because Japan had lost access to the industrial metal needed for standard grenades. These were widely issued to regular soldiers and civilian volunteer units to be used in final desperate charges during the expected invasion of the home islands. They were crude, fragile, and often unpredictable, representing the final desperate stage of a crumbling empire.
The Fukuryu, known as the Crouching Dragons, were underwater suicide divers intended to turn the seafloor into a killing zone. These men wore heavy, primitive diving suits equipped with 2 oxygen tanks and carried long poles tipped with contact-fused Type 5 mines. They were trained to wait on the seabed in concrete bunkers or caves for days at a time, hoping to strike the hulls of Allied landing craft from below as they approached the shore. Though training units were established near Yokosuka, the program was still preparing for combat when the war ended, leaving this terrifying tactic largely confined to the training grounds. Even standard defensive tools were modified for the human bullet role as the lines between soldier and weapon blurred. Landmine human bullets. The improvised Type 93 human landmine was a desperate combat tactic used by infantry to stop Allied armored advances when all other anti-tank weapons failed. It is a flat, circular disc of explosives that a soldier would carry in a frantic, close-range rush toward a moving tank. By using the soldier as the manual delivery mechanism, these specialized units attempted to ensure a detonation directly against the tank's vulnerable lower hull or tracks. It was a tactic of extreme desperation, utilized most frequently in the defense of island bastions like Iwo Jima and Okinawa. The Toko missions were the ultimate expression of a fight-to-the-death ideology. While these weapons failed to stop the Allied advance, their psychological impact on the war was immense. Which of these desperate inventions do you think was the most terrifying? Let us know in the comments and subscribe for more military history.